And who's for sale? Pretty much everybody, especially our politicians. Well, last night was the last night of whatever you want to call that show, the Donnie Show. And last week it was the JoJo Show. And it really doesn't matter who the frack wins because they're both owned by the same corporate dudes. Pretty much. Pretty much. That's
actually think it's possible to hide a really serious outbreak in the United States. And you might be able to shave off the top of the case numbers. But
he's talking about he's invented
eventually people are going to start
a test that you can tell whether you have COVID in less than a minute, right? And you stick it on your tongue, you stick it in the machine, bingo. It's like a are you pregnant test, right?
But it also just doesn't.
And it's not like as critical or deep as the ones that are using today, but these cost 50 cents a pop. And everyone could use it, right? And there's other companies doing the same thing, different types, but pretty much same thing. And they are not getting the kind of press that hydrocodone, whatever that is. Does Donnie take hydrocodone? I wonder if he questions it. Carrot Boy, that's his name, Carrot Boy.
Announcing completion of the mandatory FCC upgrade to their Speedville transmission tower.
Oh, yes.
This will affect Northeast Tennessee.
Enough of that.
The guy that messed with the phone in the stereo, he had pitted brain boxes about the size of a peanut, so he never actually mastered mirrors, which is hilarious. To allow black colleges and universities.
It's like I live in the 1930s. I have no internet, no TV, no nothing. All I get is radio waves, and very few of them. I got 2 FM stations. I got the college public radio, and that's WVTSU, and they do a very good job. Probably one of the best college radio shows that I've seen, heard. And I used to be a radio boy. I've been that was one of my little mediums. 1968, 9. I was in Worcester, Massachusetts, and I was on WAAF, and it had been a kind of Bible thumping kind of show, and that guy who was the Bible thumping radio owner station guy, he died, right? And he not only had a big church, and not only did he have a Dunkin' Donut shop, but he also had this radio station, and he would just rail and go on and on about the Bible, right? And he fell over one day, and his totally freaked out son, not freaked out over, his dad dying. He couldn't care less about dad, but that he inherited everything. There's nobody else's family. The state gave him everything, all the money, the big house, the church, the donut shop, and this radio station. And so I met him at the donut shop because I had some friends who were going Dartmouth. I don't know. What's the big college in Worcester, Mass? What's the big school there? There is a big school there. It's also Worcester Polytech there, and that's where I was. I had a friend the other store, and we used to, buy boxes of donuts and take it back to his frat house and get baked and eat donuts and theorize all kinds of stuff. Anyway, bingo, dad dies, and he inherits everything. And he was only, so he screwed, I'll come back to school maybe someday, but I'm going to go have, and he turned the church. It was a pretty big church. It had a big organ. He played the organ, and he would play rock and roll on organ. You know, it's like that old lady who plays the organ in the Simpsons church. You know, and every so often she kind of breaks into heavy metal tunes. Anyway, so we were having raves before raves in this big church. He took all of the, ripped the, he started going at the at the, you know, pews, and these were, there are a lot of churches where those pews are very comfy, big cushy seats, especially in rich people kind of. Come on, give me some thumbs up, kids. Come on, you won. Is that you, AI? Hello, AI. And or is that you, Canary Boy? Listen what Canary Boy sent me. It's pretty amazing. Do 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 do. Oh, you do do do. He sent me. Let's see. Let's see. Al, in the first minute or so of your video from the stores into your car, you talked about magic and magical creatures. I mean, Canary Boy must be huffing, cleaners. I don't know. Basically, what happened was, about 3 weeks ago, I went into, you know, I don't have any Wi-Fi. I have to go to a place like this that has Wi-Fi, and I go on and talk to you guys, right? Let's see if this is working here. Yep, you can text me. Anyway, Al, in the first minute or so of your video from your store into your car, you talked about magic and magical creatures. You are really bad, really bad. You're going to hell. You know, that's bad stuff. That is of devils. It's the wrong ways of doing things. No, buddy, please. What happened was I went in there expecting to find my computer guru, and he wasn't there. And the robot boy came in and said, "What do you need?" And I said, "Well," and I cracked open a thing. I hit YouTube, bing, it came on. I hit my bing, it came on, and then I hit, go live, bing, there I was. And I was like, wow, it's like magic. That's what I was going on. It's like, and this moron, you know, you were really bad, really, really, really bad. That stuff, that's so of the devil and his wrong ways of doing things. Really, no. Back in the day, what is considered today science and engineering, people got burnt up. Newton did not, he understood the whole thing that Tesla understood about the difference of the universes being right next to each other, and that there was this ether that you could tap into and have unlimited energy. I mean, Newton knew that. And if you read any of, what's his name, the guy who told the future, um, he was a scientist too. And, all these guys wrote stuff in code. So if you go to my xratted.blogspot.com, you will see, there I am, and all my writings, right? And all my writings are in code, kids. Remember, way in the dim days, when me and the canary lived in my old school that he purchased, and that he used to just, without asking me if he could, just put me on YouTube, and then you guys fell in love with me, right? And 70, 80, 90,000 people looked at my stories of the old crone, and he got the money. Not me. He just, oh, you cost me money. Then he threw me out, and then I stayed away, and then he came and begged me to come back. And I came back, and we did some more stuff, and again, 80, 90,000 of you watched every time I told a story, and he was making, a couple grand a month, and then he got upset because they were all telling him to shut up, and now I don't get monetized a nickel on this. Thank you for that one thumbs up. Thank you, AI. And why I do this? It's for you, the cadre. You're my cadre, right? So I tell you stories. And I forgot to say, here we are, almost 10 minutes, so right at 10 minutes right here. Hi, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. I am your Sensei Al Bob. Right? And what am I? I am a shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic alchemist. Now, none of that is magic. All of it is scholarliness and culture, you know? I'm a cultural provocateur, art party ringleader. That's what I am. This is what this is, an art party, right? Right here. And making art in the first person, right? As the aboriginal of love's co-creation. That's what we are. That's why we were put here. God, and I don't like using that word, so I use the word gob because, you know, um, the Ten Commandments weren't given to us by by gob. It was those are commandments of man. You know, to control the sheeple, right? God speaks to all of us internally in our hearts, right? We know what's right and wrong right in here, right in here, Instead of being for sale, which all of us are in the material world, for sale, and especially, look at Jerry Falwell Jr., who was the leader of a Christian university that was helping to mold the youth, the Christian youth. And what was he doing? Well, basically, when, one of the Ten Commandments says, do not use God's name in vain. So it's not like, oh, God, no. Meaning, do not sell anything. Why did Jesus throw, money changers out of the temple? Is because, they were using God's name in vain. They were selling gob, right? So, in my writings, you will see me talking about God either as love's co-creation or as the false God, gob, because the term God, or that God, you have to look at where it came from, etymology. You take it all the way back into the Hebrew, into the Sumerian, into the Egyptian, into the Mesopotamian, all the way back, Babylonians, keep going, and you will come to, the entities of the Nephilim. And their term God stood for their God, which was Baal, right? And I remember Colonel, what's his name, Jack in Star, when he first meets Baal, the guy goes, I am Baal. And Jack goes, Bocce? And he goes, huh? Yeah, Bocce Ball, And so, you have to, people just hold the Bible in their hands, just like our fearless leader, Carrot Boy, did. He pepper sprayed and tased people out of the way so he could go across the street and hold the Bible. And of course, they couldn't use the picture because he was holding it upside down. It's a little bit, So it's and so when people kind of go on about, they take things totally out of context. Go watch my last show where I'm like, oh wow, look, it's on. It's like magic. It's working. Oh. And he goes on. You're talking about magic and magical creatures. Really, you're bad. Really bad. You're so bad. Stuff that it's devil worship. It's wrong. Now, the guy, if he can get that from that, he is psychotic. He is on another platform. Maybe he's wearing platform shoes. And those shorts he loves. You also use blasphemy and taking the Lord's name as a curse word. No. Yeah, when God said, don't use my name in vain, he was talking about using it on an advertisement. Do not make money off of me. That's what he was saying. And when you read the Bible, I was going to bring the Bible. I had a whole bunch of, people love to tell you about the Bible. Do they read it? And, is Canary Boy reading the Bible, or is he just, going on about, you gotta do what God said. Well, what does God say? God says to love your neighbor. We doing that very well? All the wars, we spent $2 trillion last year on things that kill people, your brother. And then we gave them to people like Saudi Arabia and Israel that are just, like a little bit too much dairy earlier this morning. I was, I love whipped cream, you know, and in a can. So, and I found a place that was selling it for 50 cents a can. I don't know what, toxic material they by mistake put in there, but I bought a bunch of those suckers. So it's one of, first thing in the morning, go Whippets, go Whippets, go Whippets. USA, USA. So kids, it doesn't matter who wins. It's a fixed game, but we are a corporate structure. We are owned. We are slaves. We are slaves to the comfort. We are slaves to the beliefs. We are slaves to the corporate structure, right? So today, and we're 16 minutes into it, and we've got two big listeners, watchers, Lord's name, of course, where it says, oh my, and then he goes, OMG, which he just used to, oh my God, so he cursed things more than once, really, really bad. You're so bad. You're going to hell. I think your lack of following Jesus and God in the way I do is much, much more important. Oh yeah, I'm a bad guy. But I'm like Michael Jackson. I'm bad, woo, woo. You wanna hear real bad stuff.
You're listening to live special coverage of the Republican National Convention from NPR News. I'm Martin Shapiro.
And I'm Michelle Martin. Tonight, Vice President Mike Pence will accept his nomination for a second term while Republicans continue to make their case for
Joe Biden has turned his candidacy over to the far left, anti-law enforcement radicals. And as a senator, Kamala Harris pushed to further restrict police.
Both those guys are like, Jolly Joe wrote the 1990s Bill Clinton crime bill that put 6 million people in jail. Not just black people, 6 million Americans, right? Not just black. Everybody who wasn't, doing what the man said. So. And those guys carrying the long guns, I feel sorry for those poor guys. A 17-year-old kid kills two people and wounds one, thinking he's, protecting a building. He kills, two innocent people not having a gun. He didn't know who they were. These people were not, See, the thing is, every day, people of poverty and color are roused by the, don't be here, my story and legend, I have a poem there, Just Move On, right? When I was in my 60s, when I was in the 60s, in my teens and early 20s, I rode the rails, I went to I went to school with the wealthiest people in the world, most powerful, Eddie Merrill, Ricky Lynch, the Kennedys, the Bushes, you name it, I went to school with them. And they were morons, And I was a school that had been a country club, which was, what the, conservative Republicans were known as the country club, party. And the Bushes didn't come from Texas; they came from Connecticut. Where did both Georgies go? Yale. They both went to Andover and Tufts and all those snooty schools. I went to a school where we were all gangsta rich people. I wasn't rich; they were. But we had all been kicked out of schools. And I had the best street rep because, man, I nearly burnt the school I was thrown out of. And then I got there, and I was so bad, I was put in the headmaster's house, and we had to live in, there were four of us lived in the basement, and watching TV upstairs. And we had been out in the snow. I mean, it snowed so much there. We used to jump off the top of this house, third floor, into a snowdrift. And it was so much fun until Opie, he kind of opened it up, jumped out, and this kid had such bad luck. The picket fence was here. You kind of knew where it was. It's this rock, picket fence, and you jumped over this way. He jumped over that way. He got 3 pickets across the chest. So we had to stop jumping out that window. But we were watching Star Trek, and we had been out in the snow, and I had this big, heavy wool sweater that totally got sopped, and I wrung it out and put it over my reading lamp, right? And it said on the lamp, "Do not dry clothes, causes fire." So anyway, we're down in the basement. No, yes, we were down in the basement, and our rooms were upstairs. So I'm down there, and basically we started smelling smoke, right? What's that? We leave the stove on. We go up there. No, but we go upstairs. The smoke's thicker, right? We go to see the smoke kind of coming down the steps from upstairs. We run upstairs, go in this room. There, my lamp is, burning. My alleged wool sweater wasn't wool; it was plastic. So it's like burning like a gasoline tank. And I throw this big chair I have through the window, break out the window, and throw my table. It had one of those blotter things, so I kind of put that there, put the cardboard blotter over it, took a shirt I had, rolled it all up. It's still burning because it's like, the sweater's plastic, and I throw it out the window, right? I saved the friggin' house. Yes, the house smells like smoke like you couldn't believe because it was a plastic sweater burning, and it's like, burning an oil drum. And I had only been there a week, so there I tried to hey there. This stone now bleeds. Okay. Good to see you. Just gonna call you Stone. Stone. Good to see you, Stone. Okay, buddy. It's inside of this stone house. This stone now bleeds. I mean, I love the poetry. I love the inflection. I love the innuendo. Meaning you can't get blood out of a stone. I understand, but now this stone is bleeding. Yeah, I get it, and I agree with you. Hey, you're the first to have the guts to jump on here. Thank you, buddy. Mm-mm-mm. So, I've been there only 2 weeks, and he tried to burn the headmaster's house down. It's like, so that was the kind of guy. I mean, I never tried to do any of these things. It just kind of happened, And that has been my whole life, is that I am a cheeky monkey. As one of my clients once said, "Al, you are a acquired taste. You're amazing. You do things that no one could do, and you do them like effortlessly. And I don't even think about it, I just do it." So when I read the Bible, I read it with intent. When I do anything that I read or write or any of the above, I do it with intent. I'm really focused on it, right? When I'm doing this show, I mean, yes, it's a stream of consciousness kind of rolling out of my ear, but it's with intent, right? So, if you think you're rich and powerful, not so much. Joe Kennedy was my roommate when I was a sophomore, and he was such a dweeb, meaning he thought he was hot stuff because he came from the Kennedys, and his uncle had died, and his parents came, and they went, they showed up in a helicopter. They actually landed on the golf course. I mean, this is the 1960s. Who has a helicopter? These guys did. The whole family kind of was a Bell, whatever. And Eddie Merrill, Ricky Lynch, the guys who put the stock market into the stratosphere. You know, I went to school with those guys. Alex Orr, parents owned U.S. Steel. Um, Perry Dye. Um, I don't know if it was. See, it's whatever liquor company, and their logo is a white and black dog. Anyway, and Perry was cool. When we graduated, instead of having a senior prom, he bought purchased a bordello, number one super duper whorehouse in there's Haiti and Santo Domingo. And Santo Domingo is like a rich people's country club, and Haiti is like hell. It's like Haiti, right? And the only reason, what did those people do to deserve that? Well, they were poor, and they were, um, the generation, their great grand folks broke out of they're the only people ever to break the chains of slavery themselves, and declare, kick the French and English out of Haiti. And so they just went over the mountain into, the Dominican Republic, which was a lot greener. Haiti was, big port, but very rocky. Couldn't grow anything that much. Anyway, so they went over there and had a good time. And so Perry bought a bordello and rented a 727 and flew our whole senior class, all 23 of us. That's how small our school was, 23 in my graduating class, and flew us there. And we spent 3 weeks there having a good time, right? And that's what God wants us to have, is a good time. We were not sinning. We were, sanctifying, God, God. We were praising God. All praise God. So so today's title, we're almost 30 minutes. Took me almost 30 minutes to get here. Is the story of the city mouse and the country mouse. And I live out here in the country, right? But we have, Johnson City over here and Bristol over here. And, we got some cities, not gigantic cities, but, not even urban cities per se. But, the interesting thing about Johnson City, there is another little town just below it, and they're kind of the same place. It starts with a G. It'll come to me. And the reason all of these towns are here is coal and the railroad. And Johnson City was one of these places where it sent coal all over the place. The coal wasn't quite dug up here. I mean, if you just go over that away towards Kentucky, or that away towards West Virginia, or that away towards Virginia, it's a lot of coal dug up, within 40 miles. So they had littler trains bringing the coal to the big lines that would take it all around the United States and build the empire. Anyway, so, but where I live, my little 220 square mile accordion of Sawtooth Mountains between the Blue Ridge Mountains, where, App State is, and where over here in the Appalachian Mountains, where ETSU is, we're squeezed in between. And what happened was, when the big ice shelf kind of, made these mountains, pushed everything up, we were squished between these two mountain ranges, because where we are, there is no big, like Blue Ridge Mountains, when they were made, they were like 20 times taller than Everest, So they have a amazing foundation. And the Appalachians have a pretty good one too, way more. We don't. So we were just kind of squeezed, and all the Flotsam and Jetsam kind of rolled through our little accordion, and it made these Sawtooth Mountains. And what you do is you have these mountains like this, not mountains like this. And so between all of these things are hollers, right? So, in this part, you can't do much. You can terrace, and they did. They terraced all these Sawtooth Mountains and grew stuff. And but we're in a rainforest, and so we get a lot of rain. And why I'm doing the show today and not tomorrow is that the storm of Lady L is coming through here tomorrow. So we're supposed to get like 5 inches of rain. So I don't want to drive around even 10 miles. I don't want to drive. So it's not, I just wanted, and I wasn't sure that this was going to work. So I came, had breakfast, my $2.80 sandwich, and a cup of coffee. And it comes with a cup of coffee. So the story of the people are coming in. Oh my God! 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 And I'm saying, oh my God! Oh my God! Anyway, so the story of Solomon's tale. And Solomon, he was like, he wasn't Jesus, but he told parables. Go read Solomon's tales. They're in the Bible because they're in the Old Testament. Next time I'm coming with my Bible. I had put it out. I had marked things all up. I had stuff to read you. And then I friggin' had the friggin' book there. I always leave one thing behind, so I can go back. When I go visit people, I always leave something there so I can go back. Give it. We don't want you here. Oh, but I left such and such. Okay, come on back. You can listen. So then they go, oh, we like you. That dinner was really good you made us. Oh, boy. Good. So, oh, you're so funny. You always tell us good stories. So, Solomon's tale of the city mouse and the country mouse. So, I live in this accordion upright. And where I live in a holler. I got, or have, or, I can stay in this holler, right? And because I've helped so many people around it, and this was an area that people didn't like, just people like this, because the spirit energy there is pretty intense, right? And no one, they're all intense Baptist Bible thumpers who don't even read their Bible, as they're like hitting the meth pipe. Yep, I'm a Christian. I hate everybody. Yeah. So I stay there, and my lawyer actually owns the place, and I'm like keeping the hordes from coming in his direction. So that's why I'm there. But I cleaned that place up and rebuilt the ground there, so things grow really nice now. I have flowers and bushes and all kinds of goodies. I started my garden again after 8 years of not gardening. One bad thing about it is if you're not keeping it up because it rains so much, and because everything is shale, it's all rock. Because, like I said, it squished these mountains together, Sawtooth Mountain, and then all this crap rolled through it. And so all the ground is shale. It's hard to grow anything on shale. So I built the soil up. Now, where I put down grass and bushes and flowers and things like that, they kind of, and I had built the soil up about this much with, there's a cattle ranch on the other side of the lake from me. And I went over there and paid the guy. I said, so, boy, you have a lot of manure here. You sell this stuff? He goes, oh, please take it away. I said, well, I only live about 5 miles that way. You got that big truck and that front end loader. Can you? I said, yep. I said, I'll give you $100. $100. I'll give you 5 truckloads. Thank you, darling.
Mm-hmm.
You're the best. You really are the best.
Trying to do my job.
I know a lot of people say that, but I really mean it,
Okay, thanks. That's just part of me. I just have to do this.
Oh, you're just so sweet. And not only that, you're confident.
Yeah.
Most people forget it,
Well, I usually, my thing is it's coffee ain't as much, but I've done it so many years to, I know you've got to cut.
Right.
Drinking with ice.
Right.
I hear that ice at the bottom, I know you go.
See, I have a logo. People used to say, when things get weird, the weird get professional. And so whenever things got weird, they'd call me,
But you can tell when somebody needs something. You can,
I know, but that's because you're aware.
I've been doing this with somebody.
I mean, it's not just that. You're aware. You're conscious. Most people can't even breathe. It's starting to turn. Hey, buddy, breathe, breathe. Just breathe.
23 years.
Yeah.
23 years. 22nd of September.
Well, the other reason most people don't do something that long, unless they really like doing it.
I love cooking.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I get in the kitchen or whatever, and I'm just in my own little world.
Yep, you're in the zone.
Yeah.
You're in the zone.
Because somebody told the other day they liked about it. I said, give it to me, she'll do something with it. She won't let it run.
Right.
I was raised that way. You save everything. You don't let nothing go to waste.
No, me neither. I keep cooking stuff. My grandma had this pot where she'd make a meal on this pot, and then she'd throw it in that pot. And by Thursday, we started eating out of that pot.
Saturday at our house, there's so many kids that they was like, open the refrigerator and let's make a pot of stew.
Yep, exactly. See all this stuff? That's her honey, and she has apple butter and peach butter. She got every kind of butter. She's got canned stuff. I get a big garden. I mean, I have this little teeny garden, and it really won't really get up to snuff until next year, because I just started working. I had to build stairs to get to it because my legs aren't as good as they were when I first started it 15 years ago. Anyway, back to the country mouse and the city mouse. So here I am living in this holler, right? And I'm the poster boy of social quarantine. I don't see anybody, and when I come here, maybe 8-9 days go by, then maybe I'll come back here, right? So I really didn't go out, and I really don't miss people. I got a lot of books to read. I'm writing my novels. I talk to the plants and all the animals and everybody. I mean, I got some really cheeky monkey raccoons, when I 3 years ago, when I would not, just come and visit here, I come and they would wreck the place, like teenagers having a party. And then, last summer was the last time, the canary threw me out of the school. So I said, screw it, I'm just going to go live in the holler. And so, but it took me all that summer to negotiate with the raccoons, because you can't kill them, you can't trap them, they're too smart, and the only thing I ever used to try and annoy them was those little sticky things that for mice, but they're big, so they're not gonna, they just stick their hand on it and go, oh, yeah, and then they would retaliate and really, be nasty. So I kind of had to say, okay, listen, this is what I'm going to do. I have been mostly throwing all my foods that I don't eat, to the last morsel away. I'm just going to throw it over the railing. You guys can eat it. And that got us détente. And then the owls moved in end of last August, around this time. This gaggle of owls, and they're the big ones too, the big white owls. They're about that big. And when they put and you can't hear them, so there are a bunch. This was an old growth forest, and then it became a farm, and then it, stopped being a farm, and then kind of just grew up. And so the poplars grew up. Well, they live in, and the poplars were like weeds, like when I first was there 20 years ago, they were maybe 20, 30 feet high. Now they're about 150 feet high. But the old pine trees are still just a tad taller, and the poplars have, blurred out the white below the line for the pine trees, so the pine trees just have a canopy up there. Anyway, and so they're dying. All of those forests are dying. They're already dead. At least once a week, because the ground is shale. Especially fast-growing trees can't dig the roots deep enough to support them. Pine trees, they grow slow, so they have. but they're being, shunned out of the light. So anyway, the owls have moved into the tops of six of the big old pine trees, and they just hang out there, look around, see somebody. I'll be sitting on the hill in my little lounge chair, and I'll just kind of look up, and I'll see them just step off, and boom, their wings go out, and you don't even hear them. And they pick that little vole up, or that little mouse up, or that raccoon. They take raccoons, and raccoons are pretty nasty. And these guys, so the raccoons have left. There's two or three that they must have negotiated with the owls. So it's what it is. So there I am. You know, I've been there for forever. Everybody kind of knows me. And there's two old guys, right? Two old guys. And they live, I mean, if you drive there, it would take you about 20 minutes. But if you go through the forest, these old guys walk from their log cabin. They all have log cabins, old, 20 generations old log cabins. And they walk through the woods to come see me, and they bring me little things that they find, buckets of berries, and one of them has a goat. He makes cream and cheese and lots of yummy things, and the other guy bakes. So they come and visit. And what's really interesting about these guys, they've been there for like 20 generations, easy. And one is African and Irish, right? And the other is German and Cherokee, right? Now they both look very white. They don't. I mean, they do have, like the guy who is Irish and African. He's as white as I am. He's got Anglo, facial bone structure, but he's got an afro. And he hasn't gone bald, so he's got this whitish red afro. It's pretty impressive. Anyway, so they come up. It's like Scholar. Your connection is unstable. Please wait while we try to reconnect.
Bye.
Anyway, so the story of the country, right? So the guy who was Indian and German, he kind of stayed there until the Korean War. He got drafted, right? And when he had a ginger afro. So the Indian German went off too because he could speak German. Right? So when they kind of got him, and he spoke old, not like German you learn in high school, right? and in Germany they have many different states. Everyone's a little different, and if you've ever seen Quentin Tarantino's movie, The Noble Bastards, it tells it all. That's a great film. You should go see that. And because he gives, a lot of interesting info into what's going on. So, my buddy, who is the German Cherokee, went over there, and he was amazing with a knife. He's hunt with a knife. Whoop. And he would get the deer right in the heart with a knife. Whoop. He would just be quiet, be still. The deer would just walk by. Whoop. Right? You go over, say a prayer.
Hey, when you get ready to go, take these tomatoes with you. She asked me to give them to somebody.
Then just put them there. I got them. Because I'm cooking. And I'm Italian, so I like tomatoes.
She said to give them to somebody. So.
I'm the guy. Thanks, buddy. Sure. I mean, that's a lot of tomatoes. I'm going to be eating tomatoes for the next 2 weeks. So anyway, so he went off to the Second World War and killed a lot of Nazis, right? And he also had this sense of righteousness that was pretty amazing. Right? Because, you know, he had a whole entire family who were, indigenous people, first people, and they were just wiped out. Right? And the only Indians that stuck around here were the ones who married into white families. And the white families came up here, didn't know anything about how to survive here, so that's how they kind of got into it. So that was his thing, right? And so he was the rascal. Right? So he was in Poland, and he he had this real ear for languages. So he learned Polish, he learned Italian, he learned French, but he could speak German like a German from a certain province of German people. Actually, he's really German, So he's got nice long hair, but he cut his hair. So he could kill you in 20 different ways. And even, he's freaking in his 90s, maybe even older. He never tells me. Both these guys are older than 90s because that guy was in World War II. The other guy was in Korean War. And what happened to him, part of his family was in the coal part of the neighborhood. And his father and mother died in a car accident because he was black, right? And his father was black. And his father got shot. And he worked at a gas station. And, all this Black Lives Matter stuff going, and say her name, right? All of that, right? Well, one of the first people who that really got a hold of was Emmett Till. And this guy lived in the town that Emmett Till was in. And two guys killed Emmett Till. Everyone knew who did it. The police knew who did it, right? These guys were connected to the police. So they never, until the FBI came in and said, okay. But they were tried in their own neighborhood. And, a jury of all white males said, oh, it doesn't matter, not guilty. So the guys were smoking cigars, These same two guys, their buddy, who also killed Emmett Till, but he didn't have evidence of him. He felt empowered, and he was in his car, and it was getting close to closing, and this old guy's father went and said, how much gas you want? And the guy said, fill it up. So his father fills it up, and then the white guy, the black guy said, okay, that'll be extra. He said, wait a minute, I only wanted 2 gallons. He said, fill it up. Your car was next to empty. I put like 16 gallons in there. We want $2 or $3 or whatever. Gas was cheap. And so the guy goes, pulls out this gun. See this gun? This is a, end killing gun. And, and I don't say, the word and, the N word, I don't use in respect to folks. Now if I'm with folks who are my ends, we both say that together with each other. But like this old guy, he calls me his nigger, hey, my brother, my nigger, right? But I don't use it within the context of the white power structure. And so his dad said, wait a minute. And so his boss came out and said, and so the guy puts the gun away and tells the black guy, you better be out of here by the time I leave. So his boss says, just go. So he goes, washes up, gets his car, drives, fills his car up with gas. And before he finishes doing that, the guy comes out, and it's in town. There's about 20 people watching. And this guy was well liked by everyone, black and white. And this guy comes out. Well, this guy's a jerk. Everyone doesn't like this guy. But he gets out of his car, walks over to the guy, puts the gun to the guy's head, blam, blows his brains out, right in front of the whole friggin' town. Police, the church people, everybody, right? The black guy, right? So, And he drives away. Doesn't get arrested. I mean, the police were right there. Doesn't get arrested. And this is again around 1935, before World War II. And so everyone sees it. The cops know it. You know, there's certain people who are right to say, you got to arrest that guy at least. Bring him in. I'm scared of that guy. If he's going to shoot that guy, he can shoot anybody, right? So they bring him in, put him on trial, and the district attorney was going to have his wife, um, explain what their relationship was and how many kids they have, and then what's like an emotional character witness. And this guy and his buddies, he wasn't put in jail. He was never put in jail. So he was running around, and she is driving to church one Sunday, and next day is Monday, and she's gonna, go to court and say her piece. And this guy who shot her husband and his buddies who shot Emmett Till got in their car and smashed into her car and drove it into the river and shot her in the head. Got a car shot in the neck and left the 4 kids in the back seat while the water's going up like this. Now, some people heard that shot and came running, and these guys were gone by then, and they got the kids out and brought the kids up here, which is a good 100 miles from where that happened. And this is where they grew up, and with their aunt, right? And so who was very German, uber German, uber German, right? No, Irish, right? They're black, so Irish, right? So the other guy who is that was I get them confused. So the German Cherokee was that guy. So he had a lot of vengeance, both his parents get whacked, and that was the African guy, right? So I get them confused. So, oh yes. So the African guy first, goes to a portion of before he comes here, is living with his grandfather, who's a coal miner, right? And they get script. They don't get paid in cash; they get paid in script, so they can spend that script in the company store. And you go to the supermarket, that thing of detergent is 89 cents. You got to pay like $3 in script. So it was not very fair, right? Again, the coal miners were treated like slaves. And so his grandfather one day and he was a minister, got really pissed. He's a minister, but he's working the coal mine. Gets really pissed off because he's worked a whole week. He goes to get a script, and the script guy goes, no, you're a Methodist. I'm a Baptist. I'm not going to give you any money. What are you talking about? And the guy goes, listen, you're going to have to keep working, otherwise we're going to throw you out of your house and turn the electricity on. It's wintertime. You'll freeze to death, blah, 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 blah. So the guy, this minister guy, he's white. He's got a pistol. What happens is, he picks up a piece of wood from the wood stoop and whacks this guy in the head. That guy takes his gun and shoots at the minister guy. Well, the minister guy had a gun, and the guy who the script guy couldn't shoot straight, and so missed the minister guy. Minister guy could shoot straight, and basically, the first shot was could be considered, by court, you're protecting yourself. But he unloaded his gun, all 6 shots into the guy's mouth. Once he shot him, and he goes, not much of his head left, or his face, or anything else. So that was kind of retribution. So Grandpa got put in jail, right? And so this other guy, who he was staying with, that guy's son, basically goes and works in the coal mine. And the coal manager says, listen, this is a terrible thing that happened. That script guy was totally off. He shouldn't have been doing that. So what we're going to do is we're going to pay you for all that script that script guy didn't give your grandpa. And we're going to give you a kind of managerial, you're still going to work down in the hole, but as a manager. Right? And we're going to pay you half script, half cash. Right? So you're going to live better, right? And we're going to give you a nicer house. So he did. And that's why he was going to go to school, but he didn't. So he works, 20, 30 years, gets black lung, can't do anything. And by this time, it's the 60s, right? World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War. And it's the 60s. And he can't do anything, right? So they moved to Chicago. And there are a bunch of coal miners who had come from the coal fields into Chicago to get jobs in the factories. And he couldn't even do that. And so he Stone, why did you retract that message? It wasn't a bad message. Anyway, so so he became the city mouse, and the other guy went off to war and came back because they wanted to get him into the CIA. He did a bit of that after World War II, right? But he right away saw that, especially when, after he was assassinating Nazis and people, who helped the Nazis in those countries, the war's coming to an end, and he goes and protects Berta von Braun, so we can get him. And he is there when Cordell Hull and the guy who was Secretary of Defense, his name will come to me, the guy who they pushed out the 16-story window of the hospital in D.C. because he wanted to tell everybody about aliens. And JFK was part of this too. And so this guy saw all of this, and he said, no, I'm just getting out of the Army. Oh, then you can go work for this new thing called the CIA. We'll pay you a lot of money. And he said, no, it's going back home. And so that's kind of what happened. And so he was the country mouse. The other guy was the city mouse, right? Because he grows up in Chicago. His father is, after his grandpa got thrown in jail, died in jail for blowing the script guy away, he started organizing the coal miners, right? And he's got black lung, and so he's huffing it around, going to all these meetings and all this stuff. And why the coal miners had, for about 15 years, a pretty good life was because of this guy organizing, because he had a sense of righteousness, right? And instead of like his father blowing the guy's head off and ending up in jail, he organized, right? And that was enough to have enough money to send this guy to, during the 50s and early 60s, send that guy to law school, to college and law school, University of West Virginia in Morgantown. And he went off and worked for Ralph Nader, and Ralph Nader's number one lawyer, the guy he was the guy who was a lawyer for Angela Davis in Chicago 7. And that's where I met him, in Chicago. That guy's name won't pop into my mind. So if you're really smart and you're really good and you have this intent, just like my friend who cooks here has the intent, that's what goes down. So how many are watching? 5. So that's the difference of the country mouse and the city mouse. But when it comes right down to it, they're both mice, Oh, it's 1 hour and 1 second. So, all of this stuff that's going on, with politics, Donnie and JoJo are both working for the same guy, the corporate world, you know.
who spent 20 years studying the roots of American conservatism. His latest book is about the events that propelled Ronald Reagan to the White House and made him a revered figure among Republicans. We'll talk about some of the ways Reagan and Trump are alike. They both played
They
fast
both-
and loose with facts, and
they
some
both
things
lie.
are different. Reagan welcomed immigrants, and in 1980 talked about establishing an open border with Mexico.
Ronald Reagan.
Goldstein says the presidential race between Reagan and Democrat Jimmy Carter was more closely contested than many remember. Reagan scored
For Appalachia, these stories show that the same sort of.
If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Storytown Radio Show on WET.
Said coal was making people rich, but we never saw any of it.
I'm trying to force people to drop planes. Doctors are making prejudicial statements against minors. We have.
You're listening to live special coverage of the Republican National Convention from NPR News. I'm Maureen Shapiro.
And I'm Michelle Martin. Tonight, Vice President Mike Pence will accept his nomination for a second term while Republicans.
98. I mean, these are the sorts of wins that we're fighting against right now. I mean, that's what makes it very difficult for a mayor who is trying not to be partisan. I imagine Mayor Holt's the same way. We both
These
try to
two
wake
are
up
two
each day and do what's best for our city, regardless of
Republican and a
Republican or Democrat.
Democrat.
I think
Right?
It'll be their first meeting to put a proposal in front of the council for reinstatement of that. We also had a council member here in Oklahoma City, a gentleman named Jim.
Cole, just for a moment, I'd like to hear a little bit from you on the kinds of things that we're hearing from the far right, sometimes even from the President of the United States as well. And the reason why I ask is because in April, right, it was the 25th anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing, and you gave a quite a powerful speech. And in part of that speech, you said, in today's political environment, I hear echoes of the kind of rhetoric that I think inspired the perpetrators of the bombing. I think we all have an obligation to look at Oklahoma City, to look at that scar we have in our downtown, and remember where this all leads when you call other people your enemy, when you try to foster division and difference. So, what kind of rhetoric today were you specifically thinking of when you wanted to point that out?
Well, all of this dehumanizing rhetoric really at both ends of the spectrum, but, at the time of giving that speech in April, obviously we've heard it the most at the national level for the last 4 years. This idea that, that we're not all in this together, that people who disagree with you on economic policy are your enemy and they must be destroyed, and that sort of rhetoric leads ultimately to action, and you have to be more careful with your words, because words are just the path ultimately to evil acts like we saw in Oklahoma City. So I just think.
And when I hear people talking about all the kind of stuff, it's almost like, it's like a natural effect. No. Human beings naturally get along. Look at me. I get along with everybody here. Got my Magamute hat on. But there's an over and all entity that we don't even see. That's been around, since, the Nephilim. They're the guys who made us. They're the guys who wrote the books. They're the guys who have the money. They're the guys who run things. They're the guys who hired JoJo and Donald, because both those guys are showing up. They're not like my friend here, Sweetie, who's on top of everything, right? She rules the world here. And everyone lets her because she does the job better than anybody else could. She's so sweet and generous and nice. Well, enough of that.
try to say in those remarks, and what I try to live out and say and repeat every day is urge everybody, especially in a diverse city where we're all living on top of each other. You know, the only way that we can coexist is if we have empathy for each other, and when we listen to each other and we seek common ground, and we don't dehumanize each other, we don't treat each other as our enemy. We don't use those kinds of over-the-top words that once were the exclusive domain of extremists. I know there's always people who said things like that, but they very rarely enter mainstream culture. But now you have national leaders using that kind of terminology. And yeah, it's very dangerous. I mean, it ultimately leads to violence. I mean, I think that's just demonstrated across history. So we know how this story ends, and we've got to do a better job as a society in having better conversations.
Just briefly though, Mayor Holt, by national leaders, do you mean the current president of the United States?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, we're not idiots. Yes, of course. I mean, there's the language that he and a lot of other people, I mean, not the only one, but that he and a lot of other people is not acceptable political discourse. It is not the kind of discourse that leads to compromise, pragmatism, and real change and real progress in our country.
All right, well, we're talking with two mayors of American cities this hour about the reality on the ground in their cities. David Holt is Republican mayor of Oklahoma City, and Quentin Lucas is the Democratic mayor of Kansas City. We'll hear a lot more from both of them when we come back. This is On Point.
Maybe you're up at dawn. Or maybe you're, not a morning person. Wherever or whenever your day begins, started with the show that connects you to what's happening everywhere. Morning Edition from NPR News is now available on demand weekdays from 7 to 3. Just say, Alexa, play Morning Edition. Morning Edition, on your schedule, from NPR. Support for WETS comes from Ashley Academy, announcing their new location on South Road Street in Johnson City. With over 56,000 square feet of academic space, Ashley Academy will offer in-person, socially distanced learning and optional online instruction beginning September 15th. Registration and tour information at ashleyacademy.com.
Hey. Hey.
Support for On Point comes from listeners of WBOR Boston, where the program is produced, and which has been collecting data from each U.S. state and territory.
Anyway, so kids, don't believe a word I say. You know? I'm just a storyteller. And what is a shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic anthropologist? So, a shamanic, is a frame, right? An indigenous first person's frame, how they looked at things, right? How they saw things. What their worldview was, is the shamanic, the frame. Right? And what that frame was all our relations. We're all connected. You know? Humans aren't any better than anybody else, right? And closer to God, none of the above. And so that's the first person, you know, that's the Aboriginal, the artist in the first person, the guy who scribbles the picture on the cave wall, right? So that's the shamanic. It's not magic, it's not, you know, none of the above, right? It's a worldview. It's a worldview of balance. It's a worldview of love, right? And that's what, you know, Bob is all about. That's what, you know, the great creator is about. It's balance and love, right? So that's a shamanic. Psychosocial, cultural, forensic anthropology. What's that? To understand someone's psyche, how their mind works, how they see things, right? Because that's what we have 5 senses. And basically, our 5 senses register 0.005% of the universe. the other 99.84235 of the universe we don't see. We're starting to realize, oh, that's dark matter. We can see the gravitational pull of this that we can't see, right? And people like Newton and Einstein and Tesla and Ben Franklin and a whole bunch of Greeks and early philosophers knew all about the ether and all about what's going on, right? But they couldn't say it because the Catholic Church, the Holy Roman Empire, one day they're all pagans, the next day they're popes and bishops and cardinals, right? And I knew that world pretty well because my godfather was Cardinal Cushing, right? And he wanted me to be a rocket scientist for the Pope. That's how I got to be in a, seminary, right? And when I got, went off to a Catholic school, like all the rest of my brothers and sisters, but in first grade, first off, I went to kindergarten to this public school just down the road with my grandma, right? And I was with Mrs. Gurley. Oh, she was so sweet, blonde hair and nice, and brought us cookies every day and read us stories, read us Charlotte's Web. And that's what I thought. And she let me, do my own thing. In those days, I had a lot of these, composition books, and I'd be writing stuff down. What's that again? Oh, I'm just writing a story. She'd look at it and go, okay, that's nice. You wouldn't say, oh, you're not spelling that right, or what? You've been using words, so because I was being the artist in the first person, right? And so that was a public school, and that was grammar school, kindergarten to 5th grade, right? And then you went across the street, 6th and 7th, 8th, 9th grade, and then you went to the high school, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. That's how Freeport was anyway. So I was in that thing, and I would stroll through the whole friggin', kindergarten through 5th grade and find interesting teachers and talk about stuff. And that's why I learned geometry in kindergarten. So, about
I would say guessing that you're probably $1,000.
So anyway, the
depending on what they got to do, really. Do service changes around $1,500-$1,600. So it's generally speaking, I would think.
I don't know, this is the guy talking about electric work. That's my old friend.
Until you get into it and know exactly what you're doing.
So,
You don't.
then first grade, I went to Hitler's Rifle Squad, HRS, Holy Redeemer School.
I mean, I told Dr.
And sister, I hate your guts. There I'm sitting in there, and it's like, every week bell rings, and we're all supposed to get on our hands and knees and get under our desk, tuck and cover. And where, you could see the Empire State Building from this window of this classroom. And I was like, I wouldn't get down. At 6, I saw, my dad took me in above ground nuclear tests in Nevada. I saw what a nuclear weapon did.
I mean,
And so the
biggest
nun
thing is
kind of
getting
goes,
the water. Like I tell everybody, when you don't know how the water's coming, you stand outside, pouring rain, and watch the water come to your house.
that's right. That's what I do.
Stop it.
It took me, 15 years to get it all right. Anyway, we're talking about water. I'm jumping around a lot, 1 hour, 14 minutes. What time is it? 10:50. Anyway, so the nun says, get out of your table. I said, no, sister. What? No one's ever said no, sister to her. No, sister. I said, look, there's the Empire State Building, right? That's ground zero. The Russians going to drop a hydrogen bomb. Hydrogen bomb's like 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb that obliterated Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Now, this is a kid who's like 6, 7, telling a nun this, and maybe 8, however you are in first grade. And so she kind of, and I describe in great detail about how the flash will, incinerate us, and then the shock wave will come through that glass window about a nanosecond before it hits us and turn into razor blades and slice us up like bologna, and then we'll be fried by the radiation. And so, people, this must have been one of her deepest fears, because she grabbed me by the neck, threw me against the wall, and just went bam, 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 and she broke my orbit in my eye, and that's why my eyes kind of looking over that way, and broke my jaw, and wired my jaw, and so I can't see too well. What's so she did a miracle. They wired my mouth so I couldn't say anything for about a year, right? And then when they took it out, I had a stutter, right? But that's when my mother, she knew Cardinal Cushing, and he baptized me. He was my godfather, threw the water on me, the whole thing. And so he basically said, okay, I'm going to send you to Garden City. Well, now I read about this. There are these 10 guys who were really great, right? And they were Maryknoll priests. These are the first guys to lose the collar. They all had they had their own collar. They had turtlenecks. And each of them was this kind of, one was a psychologist, one was a sociologist, a psychosocial, one was an anthropologist, and one was a forensic scientist, right? And there were about 8 other disciplines there. And that's why I learned how to speak Latin and read Hebrew. And I was like 7, 8, 9 when I was hanging over those guys. Yeah, it was terrible to get beat up by a nun, right? And I was like bloody mess. My mom gave me, and they were going to send me to a mental institute. And that's, oh, don't worry, we're going to send Al to a mental institution. The men in the white coats are coming. He'll have a lobotomy tomorrow. And my mother said, no, you'll be hearing from our lawyers today. That's why Cardinal Cushing stepped in and said, okay, yes, this was wrong, but listen, it's just actually going to turn out good, because we're going to send Al over to these guys, and they are the bomb, right? And they were. And that's what happens to me. Something terrible occurs that brings me around to something amazing that I would never been accessible, right? So, all as my teacher, Akashic would say, all things are as they should be.
I didn't go in that.
I said, how about this? And what's this? And he would go, listen, you're just, reacting emotionally, biologically, to your hormones from your very small senses, 5, are seeing this, and you're reacting this way. No, that's not how you need to react. You have to go deeper in. And that's why we meditate. We go deeper in. And that's why if you go back. So Stone Man or Stone Woman, have you gone and looked at my other shows? Have you seen any of the guided meditations? Because they are quite useful, right? And I learned this from those priests.
Right.
And from Thomas Merton, who was buddies to them. And Thomas Merton became a Catholic priest because of my mother, because he was a Methodist, and she used to have these cocktail parties in New York where all the rich guys would come, and she was going to pick which rich guy she was going to marry. And she married my dad because she knew that this guy was indomitable. He would do whatever she told him to do. And she could, she would be the admiral of the Navy. My dad would be the captain of the boat. So Thomas Merton, she said, oh, Tommy, I can't teach you. You're not even Catholic. So he went off to become a Catholic, and then he fell in love with Jesus and Christianity and tried to marry Eastern philosophy with, Stone Man, go check out my other shows, there's a lot of repeating stories, but there's a lot of good stuff there too. I have almost 1,200 shows. And what I would suggest is do you have a dartboard? Which one do you recommend? Thank you, darling. Could I have a little refill? You're reading my mind. So you should
So
dartboard, darts, throw the darts, get 3 numbers, 001, that's the first show. 0012, that's the 12th show, 102, you can do it with a rolling dice, any tool that you can pick a number without thinking about it. Thank you, sweetie. So, do you know the weather? Is it going to rainstorm? Right. Okay. Because that's why I came to breakfast today and not yet tomorrow. I don't want to get wet.
So when we're grown,
Ugh.
I'll have to put a rope on them that pull it downward to be able to get in and work.
Anyway, so
You gotta decide.
because when I think of a name for these shows, it's like just right out of my head. So I'm not. It's almost I'm trying to be better at giving it a name about what it is, but and you can just flip through them too. You don't have to watch the whole thing, and. But there are different styles and there's different subject matters. I would go through JAGs. I've got a lot of shows, from a lot of different times. The last 2 years, 2 years, May 8th. This last May 8th was 2 years. So, and so what's the weather? We're supposed to get a lot of rain tomorrow? You don't know. Anyway. Living outside, you always have to prepare. So that's why I came to breakfast today, so I can prepare and batten down the hatches if it does cruise through here. Like I said, I have no access to anything except the radio and just a handful of channels. But at night, I listen to AM, and I get the bounce from everywhere. Let's see. Let's look at the weather. Next 10 days. Today's got showers. Let's see what it's going to look like. It starts raining at 5. Tomorrow, Saturday, rain all friggin' day. Morning, lots of rain. All right, but Sunday, sunny though. Oh. Let's see. Monday, Tuesday, rain. Wednesday, sunny. Good. Good. It's going to be mostly sunny the rest of the week. Good. Okay. Tomorrow's going to be a big rainy day. I'll be battening down the hatches. So just thumb through them, You can go on there and there's pictures of me that might be helpful. Whichever one seems, go by the picture. I'm a very picture-oriented guy, even though I'm a writer. Okay. So, Stone Man, you should go to my xratted.blogspot.com. That's where all my novels and short stories and essays are, right? And this is channel Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Bob. And if you want to talk to me personally, go to my Gmail, the Dude Awake 42. Here, let me see what it is. So I've been out of the loop for about 2 weeks. That's why I'm pretty sure it's the Dude Awake 42. Don't even tell me what my. Let's see. Real life UFO aliens caught on camera. Saudi Arabia, amazing alien sighting. Yep. Well, they've been around. Just read your Bible. Come on, there's 4 of you. Let's have a couple more thumbs up. So what I would suggest, man, is to go to my channel, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. Here you are. You're right here. And hit the little button. And let's see. We'll do this right here, right now. So there's my channel. That's my logo. Right? And when you get on there, I got all these shows. Right? It just keeps going and going. And going and going and going.
I haven't bought anything.
Let's see. Here's me being with the Aborigines in Australia. So I lived a lot as an anthropologist with lots of different indigenous people in Brazil. In Brazil, I lived with a couple of tribal folk where I was the first white guy they ever saw. They heard of us, but they didn't ever see us. They were so far in. Let's see. You should put this information on your sections on your YouTube page. Well, if I knew how to do that, Stone Man, I would say I am barely. Hey, Buddy, there's Buddy. Buddy, there's a new friend, Stone. Stone, Buddy Stone. And what I really want to do is, I've written enough about it. I'm a strategist, organizer kind of guy. And I want to start a thing called the Traveling Video Art Circus. And what better time than in a pandemic to have that? Because back in the day of the plagues, the thing that brought information to the people was what they used to call the carnival, right? And and the musicians and that's where things started back after 900 years of the Dark Ages. These guys said, screw it. I'm not, I'm tired of staying indoors for 900 years. I'm going to go out and find some girls and play my lute and do plays. That's where Shakespeare did theater. That's where, all these guys took their stories around, right, and got other stories from other people, and did little shows and dances and food and all the above, right? And here we are, all stuck in our house, looking at our tubes. We can, what I want to make is a platform. I'm going to get a group of artists, artists in the first person, the Aboriginal, right? And I'm sure I know Buddy's one of those. And Stone Man, I'm sure you are too. I can just sense the energy. And since we have this great platform, the internet, I want to make a new dreamy dreamland. A new, but I think I would call it what it's going to be is the Traveling Video Art Circus. And we would travel either digitally or physically in a car or a bus, or I got a school bus. And school buses are great. I've had many school buses because I would cruise into town, hang out, because I was an electrician. I was listening to the guy over there talking about, I need an electrician. Well, I am. And, not somewhere I can't even get a ladder, but I'm a great electrician. And so, thinking. Oh, yes. So you can buy a school bus from a school district and the bus still works great. One day it's like moving a bunch of kids around. It's safe, it's good, it's got good tires, good this, good that, and then they replace it. Right after so many miles or years, even if it's in great shape, they get new ones. Right, the state gives them money to get new ones. They get new ones, so they sell those at auction. And if you're just kind of observing it, you can get a really great school bus, or somewhere between $800 and $3,000. That's in great shape, got good tires, good to go for another 60,000 miles. Just drive it away. So you take a little wrench, you take most of those seats out, you reconfigure them in different places, and you build, beds. I used to have a good friend, Lester, who was the founder of the World Community Consciousness Church. That's why he got, he nearly first killed me by parking his bus right next to my window, and the diesel fumes nearly got me. And I went and screamed at him, and said, I'm sorry, I didn't even know anyone lived here. And I said, yeah, I do, and you nearly killed me. And he said, listen, he took me into this room, and it was full, like 1,200 square foot room full of marijuana. And so he had a church, he had a bus service, the Gray Rabbit, and Gray Rabbit in little letters and with a bunny, and then it had this picture of the World Community Consciousness Church. And if you were a church, you could ride your church people around on the church bus all around America without having, if you had a bus company, you had to have all kind of licensing and blah, 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 but not as a church. So he had a bus line to Gray Rabbit, and he went all over the place taking people. And, in the bottom, he was, transporting his product. And he had buildings. He had buildings in New York, Philly, Boston, D.C., Las Vegas, New Orleans, Miami, the Keys, and he basically he said, "I'll take you any place you want to go, and you can stay at any of my buildings, and you can smoke as much as this you want." And I take, so like handed me a bail. Here, take that home with you, and I'm sorry. So that was Lester, and for a good 5 years, I went all over the place. And I was telling you about prep school, right? And this is how I got into going all over America. So our prep school was way over here, and the town was over here, about 8 miles, right? And we'd have to walk down this big hill and walking back up the hill to see what it was. But this freight train, 8 times a day, like clockwork, came right by our school and went down through town, slowed down, often stopped, but slowed down so you could. And there was always a boxcar with a big door open, and we would there was this hill where the trains kind of got cut into it, so it was right here. You could just step right into the boxcar, right? And then 5 minutes right down instead of walking 20 minutes or an hour, however long we were running or walking. And that's how we got into town. We just hop on the boxcar. Well, one time I hopped on, and by myself, I was going to go see a friend downtown, and the train, instead of slowing down, it sped up, and it kept speeding up and kept speeding up, and it just kept going, and it didn't stop until I got into Montreal, Canada.
Hey, how are you doing?
I just bought a house.
You just bought a house.
Finally closed on that sucker. How you doing?
Good.
I didn't see yet.
So you're ready to move in now?
Yeah, I got some car, threw some stuff in there. I'm gonna run over there and unload it.
Now you're gonna be the one, like, here's the docks, and the paved driveway goes up like this and to the right. And that would be the house you're buying.
What is it now?
Right, there's the docks.
All right, but the doctor kind of down the street a little bit. All right, so you know where long.
Yeah.
All right, well, just when you're coming up, the first house you see on Long
So,
Okay.
that was
All right,
about a
that's
12-hour
Okay.
train ride, and when it pulled in there, now I'm in my
Handle.
You know,
You're all ready to move in.
prep school uniform, and the
Oh, really?
the train yard bull kind of looks in, and there I am going, I'm hungry, So they took me in, gave me a sandwich, called up my headmaster, and said, "Hey, we got one of your boys up here. Where is he? He's in Montreal." What?
Yeah.
And so my headmaster had to come and get me. And he said, "Just put him on a train, come." And so we can't do that. Put him on bus. So we can't do that. You have to come and get him and sign for him. So anyway, that's kind of it. So it's an hour and a half, and the other thing about it, I'm not an administrator kind of guy. I just hit the button, go live and let it rip. But again, I'd love to talk to you, Mr. Stone, about all of this, because maybe you could be my administrator. I need one. Like I said, I want to make a new platform. So remember, everybody want to get a hold of me, the dudeawake42@gmail, right? dudeawake42@gmail. And I think I've spoken enough. It's 11:11. Perfect time to go. Okay. I love you guys. Stay well. I'll talk, next week sometime. we'll see. I'm gonna try. I'm very much manipulated by the weather. So remember, not everything is for sale. Everything USA is for sale. Well, see how that works out.